Welcome to the Alien Probe Podcast. It's October 1st, 2022. I'm Doug, and joined today is Corey. How's it going, Corey?
It's going good. How are you doing, Doug?
Good. Welcome. So Corey and I, we work together, and one of the people we work with, I divulged that I had a podcast. Now, I'm always concerned when I do these things at work or talk about the podcast at work that people are going to think that I'm a crackpot, and I kind of am anyway. But I mean, it's okay because I realize it. So, um, at work, Bonnie said, "We got to talk to Corey. He's really interested in that stuff." And I saw some of the stuff you had at your desk, and so what was it that got you interested in UFOs and extraterrestrials?
Oh, geez. It was really, from an early age. I want to say it was the show In Search Of that got me kind of started.
Oh yeah,
on it. Yeah, the
I
one
remember
with
that.
Leonard Nimoy that used to do that. So that was the one. I remember watching that as a kid, and then there was probably some like PBS random shows and things like that, and then it just kind of grew from there. And it really was from that point of just it's kind of a hobby, but it's always been in the background for me. So it kind of goes in cycles where it'll come around and things will happen and then it kind of goes away. But I've been reading read a lot of books over the years, watch documentaries and things like that. So it's just been something that I've always kind of had an interest in.
Did you know about the show before you met me? Did you run across it, or we had to find it? I know on YouTube. It was hard to find before.
Yeah. So I did. I saw the podcast version of it, or heard the podcast version of it. Yeah. So I can't remember how many I listened to. I think I found you a couple times, and just
before you knew.
Yeah, before I knew who
before
it was,
I came
which is
along because I'm newer at the
right.
where we work.
Yeah, which is interesting because I've known you for a long time.
Yeah.
So when I found out that that's who you were, and I was like, oh, okay, that's cool, and I had no idea. So that was pretty interesting.
Yeah, we're Bill and I are having a really good time. Like I said, you've heard a couple of my sons have come on. Robert, who, by the way, everybody, Robert is going to Vietnam. He's got a layover, right? He's in. Let's see, he's not in Thailand. Where did I say he was? He's in. He's got a layover somewhere in the Far East, so he'll be in Vietnam within the day. So it's he's doing that. So. But do you believe in UFOs? I mean, we haven't put our hands. That's something we've talked about.
Right.
What's your level of belief in the subject?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that I think it's really interesting because it's there's obviously something going on. Either it's real or it's the largest like mass psychosis in human history. So. I do believe it's a real phenomenon. I don't think that we understand it yet. I think that there could be all kinds of different things that that these things could be, where they could be from. I do believe, and I'm kind of in most cases I want to see the evidence, and so there's a little bit of a faith involved with this subject, I think, because then the lack of actual physical evidence besides the firsthand testimony and things like that, it's tough to kind of stay on track and try to keep up with things and have keep the I don't want to say the faith, but the
belief level,
yeah, because it's just like I said, there's a lot of pictures and video, and it's really hard these days because it's so easy that anybody in there, can have a program that they can, falsify an image or a video or something like that. So, but if you're going back into like the 1950s and 40s and even 30s and even before that, obviously there was something going on. So I think there's a long enough longevity of evidence and of people that have seen enough, to justify that this is an actual phenomenon that's real.
Yeah,
so hopefully that answered your question.
Yeah, that covers it. So what Bill and I do, and you've listened to most of the episodes by now, I think. What we're trying to figure out what is we've just went through as the show Roswell, the final verdict that you intro to, because Bill's like, I didn't like it, and then I said, I'm like, okay, well, you were insistent.
Yeah.
And as we went through it, and I'm glad you did that,
Mm-hmm.
because we went through it and we reviewed, they did the AI thing and everything, which I don't know about, how
Mm-hmm.
the level of, you know, proof that is. But what I liked about it is it did the chronological order of Roswell,
Mm-hmm.
from the beginning all the way till, what we, we're with the government, we don't really know.
Right.
Where's the stuff we've talked about with, um, where's the proof? Where's the beans? Where's this craft? You had two craft, or
Mm-hmm.
the debris from one craft and the other craft that was pretty much almost whole, as well as
Right.
it was described.
Or several of them, if you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I told you, but I discussed with Bill. I go, I think they destroyed it. I think the government destroyed it. I think
Mm-hmm.
they were fearful. That's the only way. And that's what the government does. I know everybody's like, not everybody, but people are like, yeah, it's in a warehouse somewhere. And I
Yeah.
really lived that belief for a long time. But now as we wade through what the government does and how they're trying to cover things up, there's
Mm-hmm.
really, they did as much reverse engineering as they could get out. I mean, we never could figure out the propulsion system. I mean, I don't think.
Right.
And they may have that part somewhere,
Mm-hmm.
but I think for the most part, it's not in a wooden crate marked with some number in. And I always say Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. Bill disagrees. He says, no, it's not Wright-Patterson. We don't know where it is. I mean, I just use Wright-Patterson.
Yeah. I think it was there at one point.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it ended up there or sent there. But sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead. You can. So, yeah, it was.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, you can go back and forth and interject at any time. So, I feel they destroyed it and they kept some of it somewhere, maybe. But I think the aliens have been. I don't think they're around. I think they got what they could get out of them. Is there any reason to keep them?
Mm-hmm.
They probably incinerated them. And why keep that around?
Yeah.
And, of course, my other theory, my pet theory, is that the extraterrestrials, I think that's the word, they come. I don't think these were, though, as they're described, unless we really, for those that are listening for the first time and haven't heard me spout off about this, is that they're from not 100 years, not 100,000, I think hundreds of thousands of years in the future.
Right.
And that we have evolved to a point where we've changed. And we change as Bill and I go back and forth on this. I said just in the recent, if you look at people now, how much we've changed just in our couple of generations. I know my dad, I don't know about your dad, my dad had really hairy arms. You know what I mean? And it's kind of like, I'm adopted, but I'm just as an because look, you don't have, unless you shave, you don't have that much hair on your arms. So we're changing.
Hairless ape.
I think we're changing.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're seeing this to even ever so slightly. So what's gonna, and what are we, 100,000 years ago? 200,000 years ago? 300,000 years ago? How we've changed to this point.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've talked about, so I'm like a huge sci-fi fan. So I pretty much, watched everything from, Star Wars, Star Trek, all the kind of usual suspects. But the show The Expanse, which I know we've talked about before, one of the interesting things about that to me is, and I know the books go more into it, but you've got people living on Earth, you've got people living on Mars, you got people living in the asteroid belt. All three of those people have developed different physical attributes based on their environment. So you can see in real time, and this is like, you're not talking a million years, 100,000 years, 100 years, you're talking 10 to 15 years. If you had a child on Mars, that child would probably not, or at least struggle to come back to Earth to survive or exist.
Do they look any different? Like, do they get heavier or
lower gravity? So you don't have gravity pushing down on you all the time. So
Right.
they're going to be taller. So the belters, like they call in the show, is they're tall. They're like, all of them are 6 foot plus. There's the average height is like 6'5" or something like that. But they can't go back to Earth, so they have to have some special suit or something like that. So just to kind of what you're talking about, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that's, a possibility. I don't think it explains all of them. I think that, there's multiple species that are, visiting possibly, they talked about the intergalactic alliance. I'm not sure if I believe in that part of it. My mom, if she listens to this, she'll probably wince right now. But yeah, so I think, and then, going back to the, what you're talking about with Roswell, I can't imagine that they destroyed that evidence. I could see why they would, they could probably glean everything they can from it, like the biological material, like you were talking about. So I can see them doing that, and probably preserving that would probably be difficult after a certain amount of time. But I think what I think, and this is just kind of my theory on it.
Big bottle of formaldehyde, man. It could be done.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
Gigantic
yeah, I'm sure.
Bottle of formaldehyde.
They probably put it in.
Darwin and all that.
What did they do to Han Solo? The carbonite. I'm sure they probably got something like that. So, but I think the United States is kind of a unique entity in the way that the government interacts with the private industry. So what I think, and I've just been thinking about this, since we've been talking about it recently, I think that what they possibly did was they piecemealed it out, like, and let's just say, for an example, Robert Bigelow, right? So they took this memory metal to him and they said, hey, we've got this material. We want you to analyze it, try to duplicate it. We're going to give you $20 million to figure this out. So that's one part. And then you've got the, whatever the fiber optics that they had, or whatever material they're going to give to another company. So whatever that company, aerospace, is going to work within the aerospace stuff. And then, so I think it was more so like that. And that allows them to not have a trail. They got these black, projects or whatever. So there's no trail to kind of go back. They can say, well, yeah, we gave them 20 million because we're trying to make a metal that can heal itself, which is going to benefit everybody, not just the aerospace industry. Right. So, that's kind of my thoughts on that a little bit.
Yeah. And then there's the other theory that, we brought everything to Area 51,
right,
which is, when we've discussed the Bob Lazar thing,
yep,
whether or not we know Lazar only really worked at Area 51 for a couple weeks, because that's the only proof he's been able to give to us with his, the EG&G pay stub that he had, which was the pairing, which is today still has something to do with the reverse engineering aspect of and he said he saw, I think, five of the spacecraft. You see, did I show you my model? I've got the Lazar model. That's the one.
Yeah. I got that same one.
Did you build yours?
I didn't.
No. Where you keep it to see how much? I think I paid $200 for that.
Did you? I bought mine back in 1993, I think.
Yeah.
I bought it when it was still
Does yours
out.
have the alien?
Yeah.
There's an alien. I don't know if mine.
And the parts are loose.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's funny. I got that one, and then I got the Roswell one, which I meant to bring to show you. But
you should. Yeah.
I'll bring it to work and show you.
Let's check it out.
Yeah, he's an interesting one. I mean, it's just so. It's. To me, I've always believed in that story. I think that. There's so much evidence to corroborate the fact that he did the things that he did, but on the other hand, there's also enough to kind of, to prove that he did. I don't think that he did what he did, and there's people that have come out recently, like Chris Mellon came out and said that he believes that Lazar was working somewhere there, that's why he has the proof, but he wasn't necessarily working in that project or...
That's what I think Bill was saying too. That he was a radiation expert and he would test, but he could see he had access to different areas in S4 in the base, but in a different area.
Yeah, but on the other hand, then you've got George Knapp, who was trying to get information, and he was just as he put it, he said he got tired of getting dicked around, basically. Yeah. Like every time he tried to look into something or get information, they would basically send him on a wild goose chase or not give him the information or say I'll get back to you. So I think there's it's a strange one. That and Roswell's kind of, Roswell's a little bit more, I think, because there's just so much firsthand testimony, in the lack of physical evidence. I think there's so much, and these people just really, I don't think they would have had anything to benefit from it. There's really no, I'm sure, people have written books over the years and things like that, but the woman, sitting out that was, that knew Mac Brazel, in the middle of nowhere, she's just telling a story of what she heard and then what kind of happened around those events. So there's really no reason to doubt that story, I guess. I mean, it's
the AI says it's true, but it's
Yeah.
true based on it's true because she believed what she heard. Somebody tells her a story.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
heard the
It's
story.
secondhand.
She tells the story. Well, yeah, it's true. She
Right.
did hear that, but she does, that's not firsthand testimony. Who
No.
I do believe is the who was the Jesse Marcel.
Yeah.
That's the
very
one that they did the test on. That's the one they did the test on that proved true as he told his story. And he was. The thing about people in the world from the World War II era, they don't bullshit around. They typically, we have ethics much more than they have today. Today, it's telling a lie. Today isn't even viewed upon by many people. I don't like it,
Right?
But it's like
it's a reality of our.
It's a reality
society,
of our.
Yeah.
But back then, it's less likely that people are going to come out, especially in something like this. If he was making up that story, I mean, he was slammed. I mean, he was basically slammed by the government, you know, and said it was a weather balloon, which is, I think that's total bullshit. I mean, my feeling is that he's telling the truth. Something's there. We found some, whatever they did with it, I don't know. The fact that we haven't found it doesn't mean it doesn't exist or didn't.
Yeah. But he's very credible. He's, here he is, the head of the only bomber wing in the world, really, at the time. So he has access to the most sensitive of sensitive material. And also another thing, going back to what you just said, also people trusted the government. They trusted the military. They just saved the world. So everybody was, they were like heroes. And so, but yeah, with Marcel, his is the most interesting to me, because there's just no way that I don't think he could have mistaken that material. The only thing, and I've told you this before, which I thought was interesting, I saw that somebody had found it was so during the war when they were like materials were scarce. Yeah. And so they would use things they wouldn't normally use. So there was a piece of tape that had some kind of interesting symbolism on it, and I saw it on a piece of balsa wood. And it looked a lot like the I-beam that
the I-beam thing
that
with the
Marcel
symbols on it
talked about. Yeah. And so it's little things like that. You see that and you're just like, that just kind of, like chip away at me a little bit. Yeah. But that stuff is out there. So you got to really kind of, look at the evidence and things like that. But I still don't think that explains the characteristics of the material that they found and the amount of it, for one. I mean, even if it's a balloon, the balloon itself is going to spread out through a pretty big area, but to have, two large areas with debris
balloons
or
don't
craft,
get torn to tight. I mean, they're describing just pieces,
right.
Literally 4 inches by 4 inches. There's no recognizable piece of material, engine. I mean, but that wouldn't be on a balloon, but there was no recognizable material. It's just unfathomable that somebody would go in and not realize that was, a balloon, if it was. It's insane.
Even with the little electronic suite that they say was attached to Project Mogul, whichever it was, it's like, it's still not going to explain, the amount of, and so that, on top of what, Brazel and everybody that they said when they actually saw that first debris field. It's just hard to believe that that's anything else, but again, there's no physical evidence. I was hoping by this time, I was thinking like, 50 years ago, or not 50, or 20 years ago, that somebody would have came out and said, hey, I got a piece of this. Or my cousin or uncle, I was waiting for. Squirreled it away or something like that, and then you get the alien autopsies, Now
you said they have a piece in the Roswell Museum. Yes? Did
you
mention that?
I think Bill.
Did Bill say that?
Yeah, it might have been Bill that said that. I can't remember.
Did you go there?
I did, yeah. I don't remember seeing an actual...
Robert didn't mention it either, but I know it's just something that's hidden away. Is it in the back?
And this was probably maybe like 10 or maybe 11 years ago that I ended up going out there. So there's a lot of stuff in there, but I don't know if it's that UFO rock they found. Have you seen the Roswell rock? That's got the kind of weird symbolism on it that I guess that was found out by the crash site or something.
I didn't see that.
I'll have to send it to you, but yeah, it's if they do, then what is it? Like where's the? I haven't looked into it, but I'll have to look into it and find out. Right.
Really.
Yeah.
But, Lazar, I don't know. Bigelow, you work with Bigelow. He's just kind of a squirrel to me. I don't know. His work, Bigelow funded him for his lab, and then Lazar ended up doing this weird side business with furniture.
Yeah.
And so Bigelow caught wind of it because somebody that worked with Lazar ratted him out to Bigelow. He's got, they got a lot of furniture in the back. And so they, and he ran a brothel, and you got to do what you got to do to make money. But
George Knapp said he's a weird dude.
Yeah. When you hear that story though, when you did the Rogan and Jeremy Corbell, is that guy?
Yeah.
And I don't know if you've heard that interview. Have you heard that one? And that's where I first said, this guy's believable, man. And he's had the same story since the 80s.
Yeah.
And I'd play it, I'd go, I have friends and I'd be going somewhere and I'd play it. And man, this dude is for real, Yeah, he's for real, but I don't think he embellished the story. Maybe we should put the A on his face. He embellished the story.
Yeah. He was scared of something. That's the thing that gets me about him too, is and you didn't really see this when he first came out. It wasn't until after when he got to see some of the footage. He was freaked out about something, when he came out, and I don't know if it was just because he was like embarking on this massive, lie, or if it was just that he was really in fear of his life, which I think he did work there. I think that there was material there. But he was scared of something like that. At least that's the impression that I get.
Well, he lost his security clearance because his wife was having an affair with her flight. She was learning to fly.
Flight instructor. Yeah.
So she was having an affair. So that kind of thing. I guess he was. I don't know if he must have had his security clearance because he was he's proven that he was at the base. But I think after this happened, I think his security clearance got pulled. And then I don't know if he's threatened, like he said, or whatever. But it's just I don't believe. I don't know. I don't believe. So
yeah. Well, and he passed. I think he did 2 polygraph tests. I think.
Yeah. Well, he's a professional liar. He could pass.
Yeah, and that's true. And that goes into the whole Roswell show is that. And I've taken a voice stress analyzer, and I think that they are effective, but I think they can also be fooled. If you got somebody that's sociopathic, capabilities, or that they can fool one of those systems. But I don't know how the AI in that show. I think it's taking a lot of information on how your face contorts and things like that with different emotions and when you're telling stories and stuff like that. So I think there's some validity to it. I don't think it's perfect. I think it's probably foolable or fallible, but I think it's also at the same time, I think I think it's another tool in the, to be able to look at these things and see these people. And in that particular case with that show, there's more that, there was only a couple where, they came out and said, well, yeah, this isn't, we, don't think that this is a true or accurate, which was interesting because a lot of those investigators already thought that ahead of time. They were already thinking that, this part of the story doesn't quite make sense, so it's an interesting, both of those are just, it's the, a lot of evidence but Roswell, I think, was the smoking gun. I think it, caught the government with their, I don't want to say like their pants down, but
it was their first experience, I think, to those. Well, I think it was probably the first one that we've quote unquote caught them being involved in it.
Yeah.
Did we never? But remember, Roswell, the airbase was a nuclear, central air base for the bombers, and a lot of these sightings, as you and I both know, or at the time, all of a sudden showed up around nuclear facilities, or we've got other areas. Los Alamos was another one. I mean, that was one of those where it had the. We had the radar there, and the theory is they had this high-powered radar because they thought any flyovers or anything by the Soviets or whoever, Chinese.
Right.
They wanted to be able to pick those up, so they had an extra unusual radar that they hadn't typically used, and it accidentally sent. I mean, this is the Aztec I think this might be the Aztec crashes.
Yeah.
There's like five. There was like five saucers that went down, but they were right in. I mean, that the military on those. The military was a military operation. They're right there. I'm talking about the ones that. Why haven't we found that? We got camera phones.
Mm-hmm.
They just not landing. I mean, they land. I mean, if you look at the latest MUFON report, there's. I've got it in here. I could open it up. I just got it today. Where I get it every month. The Mutual UFO Network.
Yeah.
And it says that there's sightings under 100 feet. They have under 100 feet, and they've got them rated by, and they go farther and farther away. Because the MUFON investigators, they take a report and to talk about, exactly what happened, what this could possibly be. Is it a UFO or is it not a UFO? It's just an unidentified flying object.
Yeah.
So, or an object. It's on the ground. There's some that are on the ground. Okay, so if you and I see a flying saucer and it's under 100 feet away across the street here, you get your camera phone. Who doesn't have a camera phone?
Yeah, that's true. I think if you see one, I think they either want you to see them or they're having problems with their craft or something.
Yeah.
I just think we don't have the ability to, and even camera phones. I mean, as good as they are, it's like it's got a 100 megapixel.
Yeah.
But even still, pictures are
Do you
just
have the
kind
14?
of. No.
Which one you got?
No.
Which one?
No, it's an Android, but.
Oh, you got an Android?
Yeah, I got an Android.
One of those
it's got a really good camera. It's a Motorola, but I think that there's some more recent footage of it's high res footage of these things and not even being caught intentionally. Where you see these things zipping by a camera. Like there's one that's a drone footage that a guy was taking for a documentary, and he didn't notice it till later. You can see this thing come down, and it alters its path, so it's not just a bug going across. Like this thing shoots, and you can see, and it's going so fast. Like you're not even going to see that, in most cases. So I think Avi Loeb he's talking about making tracking devices that is kind of using similar technology that the Navy's using.
Yeah.
That they use to for the Nimitz and all that. How they captured that footage, or even just being able to see them on radar. I just don't think we have the technology yet.
We can't lock onto them. Like they were able to lock on them while they did the Navy footage. So why can't we? They're putting a lot more satellites up lately. I know this is a lot of it's the Elon Musk internet, whatever.
Yeah,
he's
or
got
the
going.
Starlink or something.
Yeah,
like that.
so everybody can have access to internet.
Yeah.
So I don't know that we should be able to utilize something to track where are they coming? Okay, so they came from here. They went. Are they just flying all the time? They're just up there.
Right.
Do they land? Can we tell where they're landing? Can we tell where they're coming from? Where they're going to? We can't seem to be able to, even with our level of technology now, we can't seem to be able to figure that stuff out, and it's dumb.
It's frustrating.
It's dumb. But back to my original point is, we've got people. Yeah, it's 100 feet away. You've got a camera phone. Like we had, we have someone in the office, another person in the office, Kanani.
Yeah.
She saw,
Yeah, hers was interesting.
She was on the Gulf of Mexico, I think. And then she literally saw, she goes, it wasn't too close, but it was clearly, it was clearly the typical, UFO with the disc and the dome thing on top, and then she was fumbling. The typical story where they were startled by it, and she was fumbling. She was in the front seat. She was fumbling to get her phone, and in the meantime, it shot off. And but are they moving away, or are they moving into a different dimension?
Yeah.
Or are they a portal? A wormhole, portal, whatever. And that's kind of a theory. I say it's not the fact that we can track them. They're not here. They're just visiting, and they're coming and going.
Well, even the fact that we can see them is I'd say a miracle in itself. I mean, if they have these capabilities, like I've heard of people talking about. I know one of your other topics you wanted to touch on was the alien abductions.
Yeah.
But people will describe things where it sounds strange, but like a being in the house, but it will be almost like a two-dimensional being, like it's not a three-dimensional being. So if it were to turn sideways, it looks like a sheet of paper.
Right.
So what is that all about? I don't know. I think it's the same thing with the craft. I think that they have access to different dimensions. I mean, they can probably come in and out, so they can observe us without even actually us seeing them.
Yeah.
And then also, I think there's different levels of technology. I think there's different beings that are visiting. I think it's a lot of it's based on similar anti-gravity propulsion, but at the same time, I think like the Roswell ship didn't seem as advanced as some of the other craft that you get described later on. It actually had, if you look at some of the descriptions and like that model that we were talking about,
yeah,
and actually there's a photograph that was taken like a couple days before that. It was a delta shape, so it almost looked like it's something that we could have easily today, some type of stealth technology that we could use. So it actually had fins. It didn't have the disc shape, according to some of the witnesses. But yeah, so I think there's just different levels of them. But the tracking, I just don't think we have the infrastructure to do it. I think the military does. I think the military knows exactly what's going on. I think they can track them in orbit. I think they can track anything that enters, NORAD. I think they know exactly what's coming down. What was the one we were talking about where and it just completely slipped my mind. The
There's
one
so
where
many.
Well, the crash was back in the 60s. Was it Pennsylvania? Kecksburg. Yeah. That thing came down, and that's another one where it's like, some people say it was a Soviet satellite, some people say it was an engine off an SR-71, but when that thing came down, the military was there like that.
Yeah.
They knew that thing was coming down, and that was back in the 60s. So
you think we can just try? The reason we can't see it because they know before the public knows.
Yeah, absolutely. There. Yeah, I think they have retrieval teams.
They never crash in anybody's house to where they can't possibly.
And that,
they're always in the middle of the desert. They're always in the forest or in the middle of the desert,
or are they just shooting these things down where they want to shoot them down?
Yeah,
that's another thing too. It's like
that's possible.
Yeah, like I said, it's like if you see them, I think it's either they're having problems with their ship, or or they're like, hey, we're gonna mess with these with these little monkeys down here and see how they react.
Yeah, but it's weird.
Yeah.
So the alien what do you think about the alien abductions? I mean, Barney and Betty Hill is the most believable story. I feel
I know, and you don't like the Travis Walton.
No, I don't.
Yeah, I love Travis Walton.
I like the story. I love any UFO story. I like.
It happened I think it was 9 days before my birthday or something like that took place. But
no way.
Yeah, I think it's a real phenomenon. I think it's again, I mean, in fact, I would say more so that with as far as evidence, I think abductions are, it's in par with the UFO phenomenon itself. There's something going on there. I think there's people out there's hoaxers, people that are, just monetizing off whatever. But I think there's legitimate people that are having experiences and I think it's occurring. I don't know how much you believe in the hypnosis or anything like that, but
that the extra whatever the being is hypnotizing us.
So David Mack, here was this like highly respected Harvard psychologist. In fact, he was head of the Harvard psychology department, right? So he starts investigating, and kind of like Hynek, very similar. You got two guys that are very scientifically based. Everything is evidence. I need, the scientific method, but they changed their beliefs through that process.
Yeah.
And I find that very interesting. Two people that have access to a lot of resources and highly educated that would later come around to believe that something was going on with this phenomenon. And that, to me, that's very telling.
Bill always says he's a scientist. He's a real scientist. And, he says the scientists just say it's always no.
Yeah.
They don't dream like we do. They don't envision what could be. They just know what is.
Yeah.
So, but if you can get Hynek or any other, Hynek, you're right. He came around, so to speak.
Yeah.
And I don't want to say our way of thinking, because I don't know. My personal view is I don't know that I'm like you. I don't know. I want to be able to put my hand on one.
Yeah.
But now they're kind of saying you don't want to get near them because that might be a thing too, where it's radioactive. You never want to get near one, so nobody gets close. It might be some government information thing. Make sure you put that out there. If you see one, don't get near it because you're going to die of radiation poisoning.
Well, of course they're going to say that. What else?
You know?
What are you gonna say? Go, you know?
So they keep putting these things out, and then Congress keeps. I don't want to say keeps, but there's been several. Well, then we're going to give up this. We're going to, everything's going to, FOIA, freedom of information. You guys are know everything. You're going to know everything about Roswell. You're going to know everything. And then they come out with a report. It's so heavily redacted. Yeah. One of them only had one word in the middle, and.
Yeah, you can watch, and I don't have the names. I apologize. When the Air Force came out back in I want to say it was the 50s, like early 50s.
Yeah.
You can take what they came out and said with this recent report, and they said the same thing.
Yeah.
Something's going on, but we don't know what it is, and nothing to worry about, and we're going to study it.
Well, they keep throwing these agencies, the latest one. NASA's now involved. Okay, well, it wasn't enough. Whoever was looking at it before, it just wasn't enough. NASA probably is already, to your point from before, NASA is probably already known. Mm-hmm. They track crap in space all the time. That's what they do. We've got the space. Now we got the Space Force.
Right, but they've censored photos. They were taken 40 years ago from the probes they sent to Mars. Yeah. Why? I mean, okay. Why? There's not like a military base up there. It's not like it's sensitive material. They've only recently released photographs that were taken 40 years ago. Yeah. So of course they know, and they've got those same tracking systems and things like that. So I think that they're just jumping on the bandwagon of like, we're going to gain, a lot of public support, by saying, we're going to look into these things. And they know. They shut down the ISS feed all the time, like you'll hear one of them say, that thing's, moving around out there. And then all of a sudden the ISS feed's like shut off.
Yeah.
This is all documented stuff. It's, so I think that, I don't know the amount of their involvement with it or how much they know, but, and I know it's a very good cover story to kind of, to pull attention away from other black projects or, whatever. But I think at this point, I think we've gone beyond that. I think it's,
And that's always a theory. Oh, well, they can't tell you, and they say, well, they've caught these videos. Well, they can't. And they always lean back on the fact that, well, we can't talk about how we got this photo because it would give up some secret thing that we use.
Yeah.
There's some secret method we use. Oh, just show us the picture, okay? I don't give a shit how you took it. Show us the picture. That's fine. It doesn't say this picture was taken with blah, blah, blah. It doesn't give you the identity. It does for them, but you don't have to tell us. We don't care.
Yeah.
I don't care how you shot it.
I think there's a legitimate concern so if you find an obelisk on Mars, right?
Yeah.
There's a legitimate concern that's gonna, the kind of reaction that people are gonna have to that, or if the fact that the aliens come down, and they're probably sensitive to that too. It's the, the Star Trek, the, not introducing yourself to a culture that's not, ready
the
for
non.
That. Yeah, I can't.
Non-contact.
Think of the,
whatever they call it.
Yeah. So I think that's a legitimate concern. And I think that was a big part of Roswell. Not to jump back there, but I think Roswell was. I think that one of their biggest one was to keep it away from the Soviets. They didn't want Soviets to know that you had something. Secondly, I think was because the majority of the United States at that time, and even arguably still to this day, the Bible Belt, that would change the fabric of your society in a very short period of time. And then you look at the War of the Worlds broadcast. I mean, that was just a small example of how. So I think it's not just a nefarious, they're trying to hide things. I think there was really a lot of reasoning behind it. But at the same time, I think at this point, we're kind of beyond that.
I think, are they trying to wean us slowly? They're going to release it, but it almost feels like they're, how it is.
Yeah.
We don't want to scare, it's kind of like COVID. Oh God, that word. Mm-hmm. But, they're slowly feeding you that information that they're going to release it, but they don't want to just come out and say, blah, it's real. We've got aliens. These are spacecraft.
Right.
They want to just go, well, and they're slowly.
I almost wonder if Elizondo is not a plant.
Yeah.
The longer he's been out, and I know he talks about how hard this has been on his family and everything. He's had some health issues and things like that. But I almost wonder if because he still has a security access, or he still has that, that title. So I almost just wonder, he's the one that leaked the videos to Jeremy Corbell of the, the Navy. So you got to kind of wonder. It's like, are they kind of testing the waters? They're saying, hey, we're going to release some of this information, but then they pull back completely. Then it's just like, yeah, okay, and then you just don't hear anything for
he
whatever
was on UFO Garage. Have you ever listened to that?
I think I have.
Podcast.
Yeah.
He's their neighbor, I think. Though I don't think it's like one of those things where they got him to guess. I think that he's literally, hey, I've come across the street and do our show. Yeah. So it's a weird show for him. Not really weird, but it struck me as odd that he would go on. That's a prop. That's our
kind of below his normal.
Yeah, this is a competitor of this show, but they are a good show. They're more entertaining. It's like 3 of them, I think, kind of do it in their garage.
Yeah.
I don't know how they get that good sound. I don't know. Probably have insulation.
They got those acoustic panels and stuff like that.
Yeah, Robert wanted to put the panels. He wanted to do it in the shed. I got a shed. He's like, you need to just convert your shed, And I'm like, I don't want to do it in the shed. If I ever have any guests, it's cold or it's hot. I'd have to climate control it. Well, anyway, so we'll get off that.
You guys are fine. Your show,
I appreciate it. I appreciate it. But it's so I don't know with the abductions and things. I'm not a big I'm not a big fan of the Betty and Barney Hill abduction is intriguing.
Yeah.
With Zeta Reticuli, I always say though, she drew the system on a piece of paper like she saw it. I don't know how she would retain. She must have a photographic memory or whatever, but.
Or it was just such a traumatic experience
that she burned it in her mind. And, she did that. So we've got Webb. Okay, so let me just pose this to you. Now we've got the James Webb Telescope. Why can we just point this to the Zeta Reticuli system? I mean, wouldn't you be able to see if there was a planet? How if somebody from there could see us?
Yeah.
They would point it at us, and they would at least be able to see the planet and the fact that you'd be able to see civilization because you'd be able to see the U.S.
Yeah,
like the space station does, and there's lights. There's you see lights and things.
They're telling the atmospheric composition of planets now. I imagine there's probably a backlog for this telescope.
What to look at?
So there's probably thousands of
at the spiral galaxy first.
Yeah, astrophysicists, that are probably waiting
they sign
in queue.
Up.
Yeah,
they
for
sign
that.
up
but
probably have to pay.
Yeah, but point it there. And see if there's a planet that that could possibly support
or at least show us the
life
system. I just want to pick. I'm going to take a picture. If they look at Zeta Reticuli system and they take a picture, I'm printing that baby.
Yeah,
because I think that one keeps coming up.
Yeah, Lazar's mentioned it. They mentioned it. And there's like Betty Barney Hill. There's some evidence like she had there was a stain on her dress.
Yeah,
that's been
dress.
They've but I know you don't like Travis Walton. I know you don't like him, but his is kind of like Lazar.
Bring it.
Well, I mean, okay, so his is kind of like Lazar, where over time there's been some, first of all, the guys have never changed their story, right? So
that's
same
one
story.
reason why because they were paid, they were offered
a lot, money, and
and they weren't rich people,
right? So and then I think I told you that they've since gone back, and if you go to the spot where he says it happened, right? You can look at the trees, and the growth rings are actually all going towards where that craft was. Okay, so I'm not a tree scientist or an arborist or whatever. Yeah, so I don't know what would cause that. But also the tree growth I think was had increased, if I remember correctly. I might be wrong on that. And then
didn't the radiation do something negative? I think it did something negative, didn't it?
I don't know, because if you look at like Chernobyl and these other places, plant life I think is increased. Not only that, animal life is increased in these places that would normally.
Are they normal?
Yeah, and they're studying it right now. They're saying, why is Fukushima? Why are these animals thriving in this environment?
Yeah, because
we always thought nuclear wasteland. It's like Mad Max, or something like that. So
exactly.
With Travis, his is kind of, so the story hasn't changed. His is very similar to Betty Barney Hill. Now he could have got those details from them, but at the same time, like I said, they've got those tree rings. and the people that were involved, the sheriff at the time, the investigator and all that, the polygraph, he did not think these guys were being deceptive. So, there is evidence to support, I think in his particular case, but Betty and Barney Hill is one of the best. It's, but
you don't
let me
think
throw
that
this
he went
at
off, he had cash.
Yeah.
He went to a place, got drunk for 3 days or whatever.
I don't think so, because
then all of a sudden showed up naked at the gas station.
They had, they tested him when he got back. So I think it was ARPO or the something of aerial phenomenon. It was kind of like a MUFON type organization. I think they did a battery of tests on him.
Did they really?
Yeah. So wherever he was, he wasn't getting water or food. So he didn't eat for 5 days. Now that's not to say he wasn't running around the high on acid, but they did test him for but they did test him but they did test him for drugs. So drugs and the other guys with them too. I don't think any of those guys were I think they were tested too, I think, for any type of substances or anything like that. So, but let me throw this at you. So prior to Betty and Barney Hill, there was a movie that came out that was called Invaders from Mars, right?
Right.
So if you watch that movie, you could probably say that a lot of the things that took place that they described happened in this movie, including, having things, inserted into your neck, the abduction aspect of it, the beings that look kind of strange. So
what's their motivation? Just they want attention?
I don't think
did they get money out of this?
I'm just playing devil's advocate. I'm just saying.
I've heard that story before where they took it from a movie.
But who's to say that wasn't, that guy wasn't inspired by an encounter or something, whoever wrote that. So theirs is definitely the best. And if you listen to their hypnosis tapes, it's almost disturbing to listen to. Yeah. The amount of fear that that Barney had, it freaked him out.
They did if they're making it up, they did a bang up job of it. Yeah. You got to you got to really be a compulsive liar. know.
Yeah, and I tell you, if I see those things, I'm as much as I want to sit there and have a conversation, I'm moving the other way.
I don't want to. No.
Yeah, I'm like
probed.
No.
Yeah. So it's. No, I don't want to. I'm not getting on a spaceship. Oh, I'm just kidding. I talk to people and they say,
yeah.
And it's interesting. I'll go off the subject a little bit, but when I go out, I've got the card. We have a card that's got the QR code and all of it, so people can find the show. And when you talk to people, back in the '60s, they would say you're crazy, but now almost everybody I talk to, I'll go to my or Debbie, because I'll ask, or I'll wear. I have that shirt. That's got the, person being beamed up into the spaceship.
Right.
And, they'll bring it up. Mm-hmm. And, oh, that's cool. Or they'll say, I like your shirt. It's interesting. That's usually what happens, is then I'll go talk to them. Because I like to spread the word about the show too. Because people will say, well, I met that guy. But, nobody says you're crazy. They all say, they'll talk. They don't. You generally have any. I had the guy at the craft fair that I talked to, and the wife believes in Bigfoot but never seen it. But he saw a spacecraft in the '60s down where I grew up in the area, Alameda, and they were fishing and they saw the traditional flying saucer just cruising through.
Yeah. And
he goes, "No, we weren't drinking or anything. It was that just flying saucer just cruising by over the San Francisco Bay." And, people now believe, I don't know if they believe, but they are open to the possibility.
Well, it's so into our, ingrained in our culture now, like you see, the aliens everywhere, there was back in the, the day, I'm sure. I remember I always bring these up because my mom got these for me, and I still have these books, and they're amazing. The Time Life series, then they were, one was on UFOs, one was on cryptids or something like that. But
really?
But that picture of the alien, just and even to this day, she thinks I've she's gonna do.
Your poor parents.
No. My mom's super cool. She's really open minded, but she thinks it's interesting. She thinks it's funny how my reaction to the alien,
the traditional
alien, ones, yeah. So she thinks possibly that I had an experience or something like that. And but that face, I saw
Does
that.
she
And
think
I'm
you
just
had
like,
an experience?
she does, yeah, yeah.
Do you think you've had an experience?
I don't think so. I don't think so. But I have a almost like a unrational fear of that
Those
beings.
that being.
Yeah, yeah. There's like the book Whitley Strieber, Communion.
Yeah.
When I saw that book, it was the same reaction. It was kind of it's almost a
Didn't your family have that book, or is that where you?
no. I got it when I was younger. I can't remember how I got it.
Somebody I talked to said that, like, their dad had it.
Yeah, no, I think I rented it, or I think I got it from the library. But it was the same thing. It was almost this reaction. The only thing I can kind of compare it to is like when you see it, like somebody who's got a fear of reptiles or spiders.
Phobia.
Yeah, a phobia. When I see that face,
Alien phobia.
Yeah, it just freaks me out. I don't know.
Really?
It's hard to explain. Yeah, I can't think of any weird things that have happened, like missing time or anything like that. But
So you don't have a mask in your bedroom, like, so
no.
you wake up in the middle of the night.
No.
So...
And that's almost why the Skinny Bob. The reason
did that make the hair on the back of your neck go up?
There's a familiarity to it.
Yeah.
I'm looking at it and I'm just like, because it looks different than the traditional.
Yeah, that's if anybody out there is interested, you look up Skinny Bob. That is the most realistic. If there's ever a real, and it's what I like about that is that it was filmed as though in that era, with a Super 8 or whatever they use, that the thing that the camera like they use in like war documentaries and things, and with this lines going through it. I mean, if they faked that, they did I applaud them. I'm like, yeah. You did a great job, because that is so real.
Nobody's disproved it yet. Nobody's come out to claim it.
But nobody's claiming it either. Yeah. That's interesting. Why doesn't... It's weird that nobody... I mean...
Well, it's always just surrounded by weird stuff. It's like it's obviously it looks like somebody filmed it with a VHS, right?
Yeah.
Or at least that's what people think. And then you've got the KGB logo, which was I saw somebody said that was from a TV show that Roger Moore had hosted about Soviet UFO files or something like that.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So, it's just, there's always something just to kind of push you off the trail, and you're just like, okay, you want to believe. But yeah, that video, whatever it is, I mean, there's some of the weird stuff of the thing flying around. That's a little strange, but the actual, the head itself, there's just so much detail in it. You got the big head, right? But you always see the skinny neck with these things.
Yeah.
So unless you're wearing something that's like, gravitationally keep your head from falling off your body, the neck muscles are bigger.
Yeah.
And then just the expressions and everything on it. I mean, whoever did it, because that came out in 2011, and even a lot of VFX artists have come out and said that, that this is really good. Because if you look at, just as a comparison, look at what was the movie about the alien? God, I can't think of the name. Remember,
what was it about?
Where they're driving around. They were driving around. They're going like Area 51, and they pick up the alien. It's I just can't think of his name right now. But anyway, so that was a full CGI alien that's walking around. So that was around the same time that video came out, and they look nothing alike, even though I know that was kind of like a cartoonized version of it. Yeah. But, it's interesting. That one got me.
Yeah.
I was like, that's a cool one.
That's why, very familiar, familiar sight.
Yeah. And I know it sounds weird, but it's just, like I said, there's a reaction to that.
Yeah.
And there was a commercial that came out with those books too. And, it was funny because a cousin of mine was looking at it too. And she was a little bit younger than me. And I was at my grandmother's house, and that commercial came on, and she ran to the other room, and I'm just like, what are you doing? She's like, that thing freaked me out. That was probably back in the 80s, so I was probably maybe 12, 13-ish, 11, 12, 13-ish. I'd have to check, see what
that's old. So it just freaked her out. Huh? Did you ever say, well, what's the problem?
No, she just said it freaked her out.
Oh,
it's just that image, just that. Yeah.
Did you hang out together when you were younger? Would you have been somewhere where the two of you were together and something would have happened? Did you go in the woods? Did you go camping?
Not really.
Go...
I mean, just the family, picnics and stuff like that.
Oh yeah. The get-togethers.
It's just strange.
Yeah, I don't know. It's bizarre.
Now people are gonna think I'm nuts.
Well, no, well. Luckily, we're able. I would never do this.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I value my reputation. I mean, this isn't anything too crazy. We've got another guy at work that wants to come on. I don't know if I told you, Elder's coming on.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah. I didn't
And which was a kind of struck me as I don't even know how he found out. Oh, probably saw that because I got the mouse pads and crap at work. So he's going to come on. He wants to do the same thing. He just wants to talk about the generality of the subject. You know what? He's got a strong belief, and they see him in Mexico. Mexico's kind of a hot spot for him.
Huge. Yeah.
You know, for whatever reason. So, you know, I'm looking forward to having him on too. That's going to be interesting.
I had no idea he was interested. Yeah.
Yeah, he's huge. When can I go? When can I go?
Yeah.
So we'll do this. This is a good start because now I can get him up here and do this thing. I arranged everything so I can, you know, do it with two people. And I can do it also with Bill. We can beam Bill in. Bill's out. We thought the hurricane was going to hit him a little harder. Luckily, it skirted him. They just got rain. And my sister got hammered, though, man.
Yeah, that's what you're saying.
Really got hammered. But, you know, basically that's, you know, I've never had the experience. I just always thought, you know, are they here? Who knows?
Yeah.
You know, so that's interesting that, you know, you have that phobia of that image.
Yeah, it's weird. It's I don't. Very similar.
So Area 51, Doug. Have you heard of the Dugway Proving Ground? Where they, you know, they think it's 600. It's the size of Rhode Island or something. The military base.
Yeah. It's that one's only kind of recently I've heard more about that. I think that's probably most likely the new Area 51. I think that's where.
Someone else just came out about that, where they said that's where they're keeping the Roswell stuff is Dugway, and you know that would make sense. I mean, there's big enough where I looked at it on Google and on Google Earth, and it's possible that that could be the Holy Grail, but you never find it there. Holy crap, it's gigantic. I mean, it's unbelievable.
Yeah. Have you seen those photos of those big like beams shooting out of?
Yeah, there's a.
I think DARPA does a lot of stuff there. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is that Max?
It's Maxwell. They're back. Awesome. I didn't hear any jets. I'm kind of disappointed. It's 11:20 and the air show's in town, and I haven't heard anything.
Yeah, that one. So if you hear people talk about it, there's like a triangle, an underground triangle between like New Mexico, Utah, Nevada.
Right.
People talk about these underground bases. I don't know. I remember I saw one show one time, and you got to be careful with the shows because they're just, they're entertainment value. But they did find, I think it was UFO hunters, if I remember correctly, and they did find a weird vent in the middle of New Mexico, like out in the desert.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and it's camouflaged. And then they got all these weird the spotting towers. Have you ever seen those in random places out in New Mexico? And
it's like, what's this for?
They almost look like the hunting blinds or whatever they call those. Yeah, there's a bunch of those that are around, but they're obviously, you could tell that they were built by probably the military. Like they just have that kind of structured feel to them.
Right.
Yeah. So, and then the Denver airport. I mean, there's no shortage of topics, but the Denver airport, the weirdness with that, all the weird construction that went into that, and all the side construction that supposedly took place because that's connected to something underground.
They said it was like billions more. I don't know. I say billions. It would cost a lot more than it was supposed to, and it's like they dug down deeper and did all kinds of weird.
Yeah. So I don't doubt it. I think Dugway's I think they test a lot.
I really want to dig into Dugway.
Yeah, and it's weird because it's kind of in a populated area, so it's kind of a weird spot.
All right, we're gonna wrap it up. We're just about an hour. Thanks for listening to the latest episode of the Alien Probe Podcast. We welcome comments, questions, or requests to alienprobepodcast@gmail.com. Visit us on Facebook. Check out our website, alienprobe.net, Twitter and Instagram at alienprobepod. Like and subscribe to YouTube at Alien Pro Podcast. It's going to jump right to the top if you punch that in. Thanks to our senior producer, the traveling Robert Anthony. Thanks, Corey. Thanks for joining in.
Thanks for having me on.
And we will see you next week.